Hello, I'm Russell Parry. I'm going to take you on a journey of the Appley Bridge Meteorite in this 110th anniversary year. The event happened, this major astronomical event happened 13th of October 1914, and the meteorite entered our Earth's atmosphere. It was first seen directly over Stoke-on-Trent. It travelled at terrific speeds. It was calculated at the time as travelling through our atmosphere at 8 miles per second over Staffordshire, over Cheshire, and it landed a short distance down here, Lees Lane, and it landed in a field at the back of Halliwell Farm. Now, the following morning, two gentlemen were out shooting in the fields here, just on the outskirts of Appley Bridge. One of them, for sure, was a worker for Halliwell Farm. And because of that, they knew the layout of the land very well. And as they were walking and shooting across these fields here, they noticed an upturned mound of earth. They went over to investigate, and in front of that upturned mound of earth was a hole in the ground 2 feet across and 18 inches deep. Inside the hole was a large black and dark red mass of rock split into two, and they had discovered the Appley Bridge meteorite. They went up to Halliwell Farm to get the landowner, a Mr. Eric Lyon, and they all came back to see what they had discovered in the field. I'm now at the back of Halliwell Farm, just outside Appley Bridge. And it was here that the two gentlemen who had discovered the meteorite in the fields at the back here, they came here to Halliwell Farm to tell the landowner, Mr. Eric Lyon. They took him through into the field at the back here. It's about a 3-minute walk from here to where they discovered the meteorite. They dug the meteorite up and brought it back to Halliwell Farm. It was officially weighed in as 33 pounds in weight, making it at the time the second largest meteorite fall on the United Kingdom. But next comes a twist in the story, because for some reason the police arrived here a short time later to confiscate the meteorite. We don't know how that happened or why it happened, but they turned up here under the orders of Chief Constable Lane of the Lancashire Constabulary. He gave the order to the Wigan police force to come here to Appley Lane North and Lees Lane to Halliwell Farm to collect the meteorite and take it up to the Lancashire Police Headquarters in Preston. So they took the meteorite away. When the scientists of the day heard that this had happened, they were up in arms, because they knew straight away from the description of that night on the 13th of October what it was, that it was a very rare meteorite fall. So they knew it had been discovered. These are very, very rare events, and the scientists wanted to get their hands on the meteorite very, very quickly, because all the time it's getting contaminated by the atmosphere, by the earth, by people. So when they found out it had been confiscated by the police, they got a petition up. And this gathered momentum, and the scientists in Manchester, headed by Professor Jenkins of the Godley Observatory, headed the campaign. Even the British Museum in London got involved. A gentleman called George Thurland Pryor, keeper of minerals at the British Museum, he wrote to the Chief Constable to have the meteorite released. Another person also joined the petition, and that was Dr. Wilson of Standish. Dr. Wilson was the Chief Medical Officer for Lancashire. Now, he got involved because the people of Wigan and Appley Bridge were still convinced that this was a German Zeppelin air raid. So he wanted a piece of the Appley Bridge meteorite taking to Appley Bridge to go on display so it could be explained to the locals exactly what the cause of all those explosions were that night. Now come with me to see where the meteorite fell. The petition worked, and the meteorite was released from the police back to the scientists in Manchester, and it was delivered to Professor Jenkins of the Godley Observatory. He also worked at the Manchester School of Technology. So finally the scientists had this very rare object from outer space in their hands. But also a small fragment came back to what was at the time the shop here on Appley Lane North in Appley Bridge. At the time, it was a grocer's and draper's shop owned by James Rigby, and a small fragment of the meteorite came back here to go on display in the front window of a shop under a microscope. People came from miles around, hundreds of people came, so this would have been full of people here just to see what was the cause of all the lights and the explosions and the fireball in the sky on the 13th of October 1914. Now, there's nothing actually unusual about the composition of the meteorite. It's not a rare meteorite, but what makes it very rare is it's what we call a meteorite fall. What that means is the meteorite was seen to come down very dramatically in this case, and it was found the following day by those two gentlemen just in the fields just up here, and they had discovered the Appley Bridge meteorite just a few miles from out of Wigan. The weight makes it very special as well. At the time, it was the second largest meteorite to fall on the United Kingdom, and even to this day, it's still the fourth largest ever to fall on the UK. So we're now where we believe the landing site of the Appley Bridge meteorite fell, right here in front of me. So this is where those two gentlemen would have seen the upturned mound of earth, where they came over to investigate. And as I mentioned, they went to the farmhouse to collect Eric Lyon, and the story unfolded from there. But in my research for the book, we found a very interesting fact, really, that everybody believed, now it was in the hands of the scientists in Manchester, that it stayed with the scientists, and that's why you can see it to this day in museums around the world. However, during my research, I found that on the 24th of January 1920, Eric Lyon sold the Appley Bridge meteorite to the British Museum. So what happened was, when Professor Jenkins and his colleagues finished their analysis of the meteorite, it came back here to Halliwell Farm. And that is because it landed on Eric Lyon's land. He was the landowner, so he was the official owner of the meteorite. So it came back here up until January 1920. It was sold to the British Museum for £252, which in 1920 was a very significant amount of money. And so that is now the reason why you can see the meteorite in museums around the world to this day. So it first went to the British Museum. Fortunately, the first thing that they did was to make a plaster cast model, an exact, true replica of the meteorite. And you can see that today in the Manchester Museum. And from then on, the British Museum started to do what we call exchanges. So they would take samples and do exchange with other museums all around the world. So you can see the Appley Bridge meteorite. The very first exchange actually was with the Smithsonian Museum, the biggest museum complex in the world, in Washington, in the USA. And in 1923, a sample of the Appley Bridge meteorite went over to the Smithsonian, and that is on display over there. But you can find the Appley Bridge meteorite in museums in New York and in Moscow, would you believe, and all around the world. Because, again, it's one of these rare meteorite falls that was witnessed to come down, and it was found a short time later. But there's one final twist in the story, and that is between the meteorite being found right here in the fields here behind Halliwell Farm and it being returned to the scientists in Manchester, 3 pounds in weight of the Appley Bridge meteorite went missing. Do you know where it is?